Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. We are good to go. We are live, looks like it, with an excellent connection. Come on, connect. There we go. So we are almost ready to go, and we are connected there. We are connected there. I can mute that a second as we're waiting for the show to start. Oh, I didn't even edit my stream. Oh well. And welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. To join the conversation, it's area code 914-803-4131. That is 914-803-4131. If you are listening live, you can join us in the chat room. Sign up for your blogtalkradio.com account. That is free. Go to the show page for the episode that we're in. Look down at the bottom, and you'll be able to join us in the chat room live. And if you also want to listen to us on YouTube or watch on YouTube, you can always go to youtube.com/liberaldanradio, and you can join us in the stream there. And there's also a chat is there, and both are being displayed in the window that we're streaming live in. Still have yet apparently to be able to show that I'm getting video to maintain a smooth source. This is still a work in progress. Oh well, it is what it is. And so we're sitting here just trying to see for a second if I'm getting the good audio on Blog Talk Radio like I like to always do. There we go. I didn't even say it. I didn't even let Donald do it. Is what it is. I'm sorry. Let's let Donald do it. Thank you, Donald. But first, as always, I like to start with this week's headlines. In New Orleans, Louisiana, or in Louisiana in general, 11,000 cases of COVID-19 since last Friday till Monday, and of those cases, 2,000 of those cases were children under 18. So I guess Donald Trump was wrong that children are immune to COVID-19. Furthermore, Louisiana has a vaccination rate for children between 12 and 17 of only 12%, yet they're still opening schools. More about this later. In music news, The Offspring kicked their drummer out of the band for not taking the vaccine. Hey! You don't want to quarantine. Sleeves are up. You gotta go get vaccinated. Hey! Sorry. There's worse impressions coming soon, trust me. In sports news, Simone Biles returned to the beam to win a record-tying 7 medals for a U.S. gymnast. In related news, Novak Djokovic had a temper tantrum after his loss and pulled out of the mixed tournament. And that was this week's headlines. So, what else is going on this week? So, we're talking about, we got, again, if you're listening live, you can join us in the chat rooms. This is actually our 10th season, or 10th season premiere. It's not the 10-year anniversary, but it is the 10th season premiere of Liberal Dan Radio. So, I've been doing this for 9 years. We've been, haven't been on YouTube as long as that, but this is just a couple of weeks. Hopefully the audio and video is coming in fine, despite the fact that YouTube is giving me an error. I thought I had fixed the settings, but who knows. So it's really interesting just to see like the amount of times, the amount of people that are willing to just bend over backwards to try and twist themselves and contort themselves into knots to justify their toxic behaviors as it pertains to their criticism of Simone Biles. It turns out not only did Simone Biles have the, quote, twisties, not only is she dealing with her PTSD issues that likely pertain to the fact that she was a sexual assault victim under U.S. Olympics and what happened previously, but the fact that during that time also she had an aunt that died, and maybe, I don't know, I don't know the timing of the death or whatever, but she's been dealing with a lot of pressure. And the fact that they're so willing to just bend over backwards to try and make excuses for the deplorable behavior. It's just sad. It really is. It's absolutely sad. I don't know what goes through the mind. I don't know how some of these people were raised. And it's not just when it comes to that. It's not just when it comes to this issue. It's like all these other, like the fact that they did like COVID-19, like they don't want to protect other people. It's sad that they just don't want to protect people. I don't know why they are so opposed to wanting to make sure that the people around them don't get sick. Well, it's not my fault. It's not my business. It's not my concern to see who to figure out who is going to be sick or not or whatever. It's deplorable. They're deplorables. That's why they're called deplorables. That's why Hillary aptly said that a bunch of Donald Trump supporters belong in a basket of deplorables. And it made him so mad. And the reason it made him so mad is because it's true. And they don't like being called out on things that are true. So again, 914-803-4131, 914-803-4131. Lots of other interesting things going on. Let me, what are we going to talk about? We've got a bunch of stuff to talk about. I'm going to save Cuomo till after, the first break. Because, we'll probably go extended about that. But we're still dealing with, if you go to Liberal Dan Radio on YouTube, youtube.com/Liberal Dan Radio, or youtube.liberaldan.com, you will see my most recent video that I uploaded, which is my Fat Man Rant. And just to explain, if you're a new listener or new watcher of the show or listener to the show, I have a bit that I put on YouTube, and I don't have a lot of them yet. But I created this thing called Fat Man Rants, which is where maybe the videos are a little more emotional, even though they might be a little, I might write out what I say and try to think my thoughts out well, but I'm still a little more animated about the things. I might not necessarily curse or anything, but I'm a little more animated about what goes on with it. I feel like maybe it gives me a little time to vent. But one of the reasons I made Fat Man Rants is because I frankly got sick and tired of having to deal with people who would be like, oh, your opinion's wrong because you're fat, or whatever. I had it happen today on a conversation about, vaccines, and somebody who doesn't want to, you don't know what you're putting in your body, and blah, blah, blah. And the guy's like, by the looks of your profile picture, it looks like you don't exercise. I mean, what does that have to do with the fact of the general discussion that we're having? But that's one of the things. And, prejudging the person. I wouldn't have guessed that they would have been a conservative, but he's holding on to these toxic conservative arguments about the vaccines and about, getting the virus in general. And, one of the most important things, I've said it on the show, one of the most important things, one of the most aspects of conservatism is hypocrisy. You have to be hypocritical in order to be a conservative, especially politicians. Now, maybe there are not all conservatives who are hypocrites, but hypocrisy, especially for hypocritical politicians, it tends to be a prerequisite. But another seemingly prerequisite of conservatism is selfishness. Is you can't think about more than you can't picture things. I don't know if it's because they're really selfish. I don't know if it's because they maybe it's both. Maybe they're really selfish, and they just don't have the ability to think about things in a meta worldview, in the macro sense, or affecting everybody. It's like they look at things at the individual level, and they say, okay, even though they don't care about necessarily individual rights, they care about things at the individual level, how it's going to affect them instead of how it affects everybody. Affecting them is more important than affecting everybody, and that's a problem. And that's one of the main differences. A lot of two Americas. They say, oh, we don't have two Americas. Again, Obama was wrong. We do have at least two Americas, and one of those Americas is one that cares about people around them, and one of them that cares only about the people, only about themselves. So maybe that's why he, tries to look at it from a point of view of, well, you specifically, I don't know why you're making this argument, because you have, issues with your weight. Now, he didn't say that I was fat, but he said that it doesn't look like I exercise, and what does that mean? And of course, as soon as I called his ass on it, he backtracked. But I don't even know where I was going with the whole thing. Just the whole selfish. I don't know. It's just, they drive me crazy. They absolutely drive me crazy when it comes to that. But anyway, back to my vid. Oh yeah. So but again, he had to bring up the fact that I somehow didn't. I don't exercise, so therefore my opinion is somehow invalid. Like, me being fat has any effect on the veracity of the arguments that I'm making. That I'm not coming at you with facts and logic and reason because somehow I have a belly. And that makes me somehow incorrect about the issues of the day. It's absurd. So the reason I created my Fat Man Rants is so you can't say, oh, you're fat. What do you think? Because I'm already telling you that I'm fat. I'm already embracing the fatness, and I know I'm fat. I mean, I'm back on my diet. I'm back losing weight, but I'm just trying to, kind of like what Tyrion Lannister said in Game of Thrones. Use it as a coat of armor so people can't use it to hurt you. Just like he is a dwarf and Jon Snow is a bastard. Even though Jon Snow wasn't a bastard. Spoiler alert. Anyway, so I made my new Fat Man Rant. And after the Fat Man Rant came out, I was trying to get it done. And I'm like, on Monday, I think it was. I was trying to get it done on a Monday. But I maybe should have waited a day, because a lot of the points that I made, I could have expanded on those points. And some of them were included. But there was some more data that came out today and maybe yesterday, that would have made the video even better. But as I said in my headlines, you have, from Friday to Monday, you had 11,000 new cases in the state of Louisiana. On Friday to Monday, of those 11,000 cases, 2,000 were children. 12% of kids ages 12 to 17 are vaccinated currently, despite the fact that they can go get vaccinated. Now, maybe this is a little bit higher in New Orleans. Maybe not. I don't know. But 12% vaccinated. You have 30 something percent of Louisiana that is fully vaccinated. 30%. Now, in New Orleans, it's like 51%. But still, that's just over half. Half of the people in Louisiana or in New Orleans still don't have their vaccine. And you have a virus that is thriving. Children's Hospital, the hospital is, their ICU beds are full. You can't go there anymore. Their ICU beds are full. The hospitals are maxed out. If you look at there's a map that MSNBC, if you go to Liberal Dan Radio on Twitter, I have shared this image. It is a picture of the current state of affairs, like how many cases that you've had in the last 2 weeks, or is it 2 weeks, or last 14 days? So 2 weeks. How many cases in the last 14 days do we have here in the state of Louisiana? Or in the country, mind you. And you look at the map, it says new cases in the last 14 days, and it's color-coded. So you have the yellow map, yellow port was 0 to 999 new cases in the last 14 days. 4 states have it: the Dakotas, New Hampshire, and Maine. 1,000 to 9,999. So from 1,000 to like 10,000. So much bigger allowance. You have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 states that are that level, including like Oregon, Idaho, New Mexico, Alaska, Hawaii, West Virginia, Maryland, Massachusetts. All sorts of variety of different sizes in different states. But 1,000 to 9. That's 1,000 to 9,999. So there's a lot of room there to wiggle. Like maybe Alaska had like 1,500, and maybe whatchamacallit, maybe Washington or Oregon had 4,000 or 5,000, maybe Colorado, whatever. I don't know. But then the next group was it 5 and 15, so 24, so 26 other states have between 10,000 and 49,000. I didn't say 49. So they didn't count apparently numbers between 49,000 and 5,000. So maybe there's no amount between 49,000 and 5,000, or maybe just the graphic guy messed up. But those states, like, New York, Pennsylvania, maybe more populous states, have between 10,000 and 49,000. So maybe a less populous state, like, Kansas, might be closer to 10,000. Maybe like a New York might be closer to 49,000. But then you have 4 states, that have over 50,000 new cases in the last 2 weeks. 4 states. What are those states? California. Makes total sense. It's one of the highest populous states in the union. It would make sense that for such a big state would be in that top category. Texas makes sense. Another very populous state. It makes sense there would be over 50,000 cases in Texas because, again, very high population. Florida makes sense to be in that high number, the darkest of red in there. Why? Because it is also a pretty high population state, and it's Florida. It has DeSantis as governor, so they're ridiculous when it comes to their cases. However, and this is not per capita. This is overall This is overall raw numbers. Louisiana, that is not high. Louisiana has 6 congressional seats. California has 55. But Louisiana is in the same number as California, Texas, and Florida. Little Louisiana with 6 congressional seats has over 50,000 cases of COVID-19 in the past 2 weeks, as much around the same, in the same grouping as Florida, Texas, and California. That is absurd. That is ridiculous. That shows just how bad it is here in the great state of Louisiana. Louisiana is always saying that we're always on the top of all the bad lists and the bottom of all the good ones. Well, that's one example. We're in the top of that list. I don't know if we have the most overall cases. It might be possible that Texas has way over 50 and we're just over 50. But again, the fact that we're up there in that 4 level and we have such fewer residents in our state is just ridiculous. Furthermore, there is an article on NBC News that I also shared to my Liberal Dan Radio Twitter account, so please subscribe to me over there as well. Delta and vaccinated parents, what people with kids under 12 need to know. And this is the quote that stood out to me. Among everything else in this article, this is the quote that stood out to me. It's from a doctor. Dr. Leininger, I'm guessing, Lindsay Leininger, a public health specialist and clinical professor at Dartmouth College's Tuck School of Business. So, what the good doctor says, the first thing that's always top of my mind is the level of circulating disease in my community let me restart that. The first thing that's always top of mind is the level of circulating disease in my community. Because if the community is on fire, that really drives everything that I do, says Leininger, who has 2 children under 12. Okay, here it is. If you're sitting in Vermont with low circulating disease and 80% adults are vaccinated, it's not the same calculus as if you're sitting in New Orleans and hospitals are overflowing. I mean, that's just calling New Orleans out. That just goes to show that you have in Dartmouth is basically pointing out that here's where it's good. If I lived in Vermont, I might not be as worried as much about sending my kids back to school because you have an 80% vaccination rate, because the cases are low. Cases are low per capita, I'm sure, as also being low overall. But you point out, she could have pointed out Florida, the state of Florida. She could have pointed out California and Texas. She could have just pointed out the entire state of Louisiana. No, she's pointing out New Orleans. Louisiana, I mean, and one of the reasons Louisiana is in that red list with overall, or one of the effects of Louisiana being in that red list overall is now the population, the amount of cases amongst the population is so high. They're testing 20% positive at this point? 5% was the goal. I remember last year, 5% was the goal. You get below 5%, you're doing good. 20 is the last number I heard. 20%. So what? And we're still going back to school? We're still going to have our kids going back to in-person learning? I got a rant about this on my rant. And there's some other things in the rant, including this post that was completely tone-deaf made by the New Orleans public schools. Whew. Yeah, just go watch that video and you'll see. You would be mad too. Now, it says, many experts agree that the overall benefits of in-person learning outweigh the risks, but for families with kids under 12 who are unvaccinated, decisions about what to do may be more complicated. Again, the CDC says all school children should wear masks in the fall, but not all schools impose masks. Now, in Louisiana, we do have a mask mandate. And that applies to schools. But the attorney, and that's from the governor, and that just happened today. But the attorney general, who is a severe whack job nutso conservative, that person decided, I'm going to tell everybody how to circumvent the rules. They're there for a reason. The rules are there to protect people. But for some reason, conservatives just tend to never understand. And maybe some do. But and there are some liberals that don't understand this either. Don't get me wrong. There are some liberals who I need to explain this to, Like, when everyone's like, oh, well, we're going to make sure to mask our children. It doesn't do your child any good, or does them a little bit of good, but the most good for masking is the protection it gives to other people. So I don't know why you think you're all of a sudden safe because now you're putting your child in a mask. No, because the modicum of protection that wearing the mask does is nothing when they infect you. And they say vaccinations is the best way to do things. They say, well, I'm vaccinated. My wife's vaccinated. My oldest son will be vaccinated in the next week because that's when they'll fully take effect. He's had his second shot. But that doesn't mean that are the parents at school. Parents at school, I have no guarantee that the parents of the kids at my children's school are going to be vaccinated. I have no guarantee. And then that creates vectors of transmission into the school. That means that these people can do whatever it is they do because they're not vaccinating, they likely don't support masking either, and so they're doing out whatever they feel that they need to do, and then they're bringing it, and then they're sending it right into the school with their kid. It's ridiculous. Oh, but kids can't get it, according to Donald Trump. No. Again, 11,000 cases in Louisiana over the past weekend, and 2,000 were kids. Thank you, Donald. So emergency authorization for COVID vaccines could come early to midwinter. So we're not there yet. We're not even near that yet. This is August. Early to midwinter is like, winter is December. So early winter is December, January, midwinter, February. Again, I said this in my rant, but I'll say it again here. Last year, we had distance learning options for our kids at the schools that we were enrolled at. And back then, COVID was not as dangerous to kids as it is now. But the Delta variant has made it even more dangerous for kids, and they've taken the option away in New Orleans. In Jefferson Parish, next door, they're allowing a virtual option for high school students, but they're not offering it for elementary age or middle school students. What? What sense does that make? The high school students can be vaccinated. Middle school students can't, or most of them can't, and the elementary school absolutely can't. So, and we're in the decision now where we're having to decide, well, even though my oldest kid is going to be vaccinated, do we send him to school? Because 12% are vaccinated. So that means he's more likely to catch it, even though he is going to be properly masked, and that's fine. But he'll be properly masked. But will he then catch it and then bring it home? And then keeping our kid home to try and protect him is for naught because he catches it through his brother who goes to school and catches it from some other kid. And they're like, well, he's an older kid. Well, won't those kids be more likely to be vaccinated or not, more likely to be masked? Nope. Because that's not what happened last year. Last year, we had a situation where my wife went to go pick him up from distance learning. Not distance learning. He was distance learning. My wife went to go pick him up from standardized testing. And they were sitting elbow to elbow at tables. Some not wearing masks. Some wearing masks on their chin. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the teachers and faculty just standing there doing nothing, not enforcing the rules. And again, if you're not going to enforce the rules, you can't follow the CDC guidelines. It's not. I'm a software developer. So conditional statements, if statements, are part of what I do. So if this is true, then you do this. Then this happens. Then you have an else. Otherwise, this happens. Or you might split it up. You might have if this is true, if this is true to this, if this is true to this, if this is true to this, I also do this. So if kids wear masks properly and consistently and are socially distanced, that's that first conditional, then you can go safely to school. Else, if that condition is not met, if they're not masked properly and consistently, then you can't return safely to school. Bringing a Boy says, thank you. Welcome, Bringing a Boy, to the chat. We now have, he has now returned late to the show today. I would say it's child abuse to send kids to school masked or vaxxed. Why? Why would you say that's child abuse? I think it's child abuse to send your kid to school without a vaccine. I think it's child abuse and knowing that there can't be masking around. And I think it's child endangerment to other people's children to send your kid to school without and not teaching them to mask properly. All these bogus ideas about masking come from the insane people who do not accept science on the right. There have been videos by experts to disprove all these little, oh, I don't have any oxygen in my mask, I'm not breathing properly, meh. No, that's not the case. Not the case at all. Be the big parent homeschool. We may very well have to homeschool. That's the decision that we have to make. We may very well say, both of our kids, look, you're learning from school, you're learning from home this time, but instead of your teachers and your school being your teachers, we're your teachers, and we're going to tell you what to learn and teach you when we can during, I guess, my wife works a half day. I'll have to do potentially teaching math after my work hours. But here's the thing. I shouldn't have to. I should not have to make that decision. The school system should protect me. I don't know if you heard it, Bringing a Boy, but I'm going to repeat this fact again, or several facts. If you go to my Twitter account, Liberal Dan Radio on Twitter, you will see this map, and there are 4 states in the union that have 50,000 or more cases of COVID new in the past 2 weeks. California, big state. Texas, big state. Florida, big state. And guess what else? Louisiana. Louisiana is in that top group with California, and our population is nowhere near the population of California. Furthermore, from Friday to Monday, or when we woke up Monday morning, from Friday, 11,000 new cases of COVID in Louisiana just in those 3 days. And of those cases, 2,000 of those were children. The ICU in the New Orleans Children's Hospital, no more beds. The hospitals all over Louisiana are full. And not only are they full, they're understaffed. One of the hospitals in the press conferences that the governor had the other day had an administrator from a hospital talking about how many beds they had and how they were full. They staffed like 275 beds. And somebody asked them, well, what about the fact, don't you have 350 beds? Well, yes, we have 350 beds, she says, but only 275 of them can be staffed. We cannot handle the overload because we don't have enough staff. Because these people who work these hospitals, they're tired, they're drained, they can't handle it. Haha, Bringing a Boy says swamps help the COVID live. I mean, it is possible that the fact that we live in a very hot and humid environment helps to sustain COVID-19. The humidity of it does, even though the heat is supposed to help nuke it. But we're hot. We're hot AF. It's very hot down here in Louisiana. It's been very hot. I mean, and when it's not hot, it's raining. Like, we've been having a lot of rain. My pool maintenance has been terrible. I have not had a good time maintaining my pool. Anyway, because we got a pool last year, because instead of spending money going and doing things like we normally would do, like go to Disney World and stuff, I invested and bought a pool so that we could just stay home and swim. Now, it didn't start in Louisiana. I mean, I did have it in January of 2020, I'm pretty sure. It's not confirmed, but I'm fairly certain that I had it. Anyway, so that's the deal. I went on the COVID rant a little bit too long, but when we come back, we will be talking about Mario Cuomo. We will be talking about all that stuff that's going on in New York and other issues as well. Taking your calls as well. 914-803-4131. That's 914-803-4131. This is Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left. That's right. And welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left. That's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. To join the conversation, it's area code 914-803-4131. That's 914-803-4131. You can also, if you're signed up with your free blogtalkradio.com account and sign into that free account and come join us in the chat room at blogtalkradio.com/liberaldan. Go to the episode page, scroll down to the bottom. And if you have YouTube, you could also be listening to us live and watching me live on YouTube as well. YouTube.liberaldan.com or YouTube YouTube.liberaldan.com or youtube.com/liberaldanradio. Sorry, got a little confused there. Maybe I had the twisties myself. You can you can join there as well. Really, you can see both chat rooms on the screen as well as my wonderful face if that's something that you like. But if you think I have a face for radio, there's always the Blog Talk Radio option. You can join me over there as well. You can also check out my beard that I've grown back out again. And I don't know, it doesn't make much sense to grow out a beard in the winter, but who knows? We'll see. We'll see what we do. I'll see if I'm feeling it again or not. So, um, what is it, Donald? What do you want to say? Thank you, Donald. Anyway, so um, let's go start talking about one of the main topics of the show that I wanted to talk about was the fact that we've got the situation in New York. Now, back when it was revealed that uh, there was allegations against Governor Cuomo in the state of New York, I, for one, called for him to resign because I likened it to some of the times where, people will be accused of bad actions like sexual assault or whatever in the NFL or in NCAA football or whatever, and they'll bench the person. And originally, my thoughts were, was that fair? Is that treating somebody as guilty until proven innocent? And maybe so, maybe not. But if you're playing a game like football that's hard, and if you get distracted, you don't keep your head on a swivel, you could get injured very severely, that maybe sitting down is the right thing to do. Well, New York, in the middle of a pandemic, had accusations of wrongdoing by their governor, and I would have thought that would have been a distraction to him, and maybe he should have considered stepping down for the benefit and for the good of the citizenry, regardless of the veracity of the claims, or at least take a temporary leave of absence from office until he was able to get these claims settled. But he's stubborn, and he did not want to do that. He did not follow the calls for resignation. We got Flycatch in the chat room. Look at that. Welcome, Flycatch. Here's one thing that, maybe Flycatch would agree with me, because Flycatch tends to be conservative-minded individual whenever he does stop by and leave, or they, I'm not sure. Flycatch, are you a male or female or whatever? Am I assuming your gender incorrectly? I don't know. I apologize if I did. Anyway, so, what was I saying? Anyway, Governor Cuomo should have resigned back then, and I still think he should resign. It's as simple as that. He has 11 women alleging that he did something wrong. Now, problem is that you only need one in reality to maybe establish a claim against somebody. But what are the odds that 11 people formed together and just said, let's all get together and try and bring this governor down? What are the odds of that happening? Flycatch goes, Cuomo will step down since it's better than being charged with manslaughter. Is that a real possibility? Is he really going to get charged with manslaughter? I mean, I don't think he'll step down because I think he's stubborn. I don't think he'll show that I don't think he did anything wrong. And even if he steps down, why would that prevent him from being charged with manslaughter? I don't understand that point. But I don't think he will step down because he's stubborn. And he has a set way of thinking. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, let's hear the words from the district attorney. Here's just a clip from the district attorney. Oh, there it is.
Governor Cuomo sexually harassed current and former state employees in violation of both federal and state laws. The independent investigation found that Governor Cuomo sexually harassed multiple women, many of whom were young women, by engaging in unwanted groping, kisses, hugging, and by making inappropriate comments. Further, the governor and his senior team took actions to retaliate against at least one former employee for coming forward with her story, her truth. And Governor Cuomo's administration fostered a toxic workplace that enabled harassment and created a hostile work environment where staffers did not feel comfortable coming forward with complaints about sexual harassment due to a climate of fear and given the power dynamics. The investigators found that Governor Cuomo's actions and those of the executive chamber violated multiple state and federal laws, as well as the executive chamber's own written policies. This investigation has revealed conduct that corrodes the very fabric and character of our state government and shines light on injustice that can be present at the highest levels of government. But none of this would have been illuminated if not for the heroic women who came forward. And I am inspired by all the brave women who came forward. But more importantly, I believe them. And I thank them for their bravery. And I thank the independent investigators for their professionalism, despite the attacks, and for their dogged determination that brought us to the truth.
Hey, NBC News viewers,
NBC.
thanks for checking out our YouTube channel.
I missed it. I snagged that from YouTube, so that was from the NBC clip, but it was streamed everywhere, so whatever. This is the same woman that ran on a single platform of getting Trump. I mean, Trump did admit it to, he did make the statement to, you just walk up on him like a bee and grab him by the P word or whatever. Just grab him by the hoo-ha, right? That's okay. Flycatch in the chat goes, when the Democrats are pushing for his resignation, you know to it that is more than this in sexual harassment. Why? I mean, you have Gillibrand who called for Al Franken's resignation over what he supposedly did in a comedy act way back when. He was there any claims that Al Franken did anything wrong other than the fact that he may have was alleged to have acted inappropriately with another person on stage with him or whatever? No, I think here's the thing. The Democrats are more than willing. When we talk about Epstein, and we're like, Epstein, I don't believe Epstein killed himself. I think it was more to it than that. And a lot of people think that Epstein has strong connections to Donald Trump, and that there should be investigations as to what that relationship was like. I mean, you saw them at a party. You saw them at parties together. They hung out together. They were buddy. Did Donald Trump act on the things that Epstein was accused of partaking in? Well, we don't know from Epstein because Epstein didn't kill himself, but he's still dead. And conservatives will then say, well, what about Bill Clinton? There's connections from Bill Clinton to Epstein as well. Shouldn't we do something about Bill Clinton? I'm like, well, if Bill Clinton, and it won't be like, look, liberals will be like, look, if Bill Clinton is guilty of this, then throw him under the prison too. If he's sleeping with underage or raping underage people, throw him under the prison right along with anybody else who's guilty of those acts. No problem with that. I'm not beholden to any politician. Politician does something like that, they get what's coming to him. Fine, do it. I don't care if you're liberal or conservative, Democrat or Republican, independent, whatever. Whatever your political party is, whatever your political leanings are. If you do that, you deserve what's coming to you. And hopefully what's coming to you is a lot. But now Flycatch says, why is Biden still in office since he is also guilty of sexual harassment? Is Biden guilty of sexual harassment? Has Biden been accused of sexual harassment while in office? Has Biden had one claim, and a lot of people, that here's the thing with Biden's accuser, and this is the thing that a lot of conservatives don't understand as well about the whole believe women thing, which is you should believe people who come forward and make claims, give them the opportunity, give them the benefit of the doubt, let them make their case. Now, some people who come forward are going to come forward and their cases are going to be full of crap, and their cases will be shown to be full of crap. And it seems to me that there was enough doubt cast by the story given by the person who made the accusation against Biden that it became not believable. So again, trust women when they come forward, allow them the opportunity to share their story, and in the rare case that they're lying, it'll come out in the wash. That's what I have to say about that. But let's hear what I'm not going to give Cuomo all the time, like he spoke for like 14 minutes about stuff. But here's one of the clips that I wanted to point out that Cuomo said. And now that we finally have the audio rights connecting to YouTube as well, sorry YouTube audience if you were listening, you didn't get some of the sound clips from the first half of the show. This is still a work in progress with me trying to handle both the Blog Talk Radio thing and the YouTube thing. So just bear with me, it'll happen. Maybe all this year, we'll get it down pat and we'll be good. So, but anyway, here's part of Cuomo's response.
Other complainants raised against me questions that have sought to unfairly characterize and weaponize everyday interactions that I've had with any number of New Yorkers. The New York Times published a front page picture of me touching a woman's face at a wedding and then kissing her on the cheek. That is not front page news. I've been making the same gesture in public all my life. I actually learned it from my mother and from my father. It is meant to convey warmth, nothing more.
And so, here's the thing with that. You can intend to do things. I mean, I've always said that I'm a flirty guy, whatever. But, you know, there comes a point where you have to realize you have to have some self-awareness that your so-called your so-called flirtiness or your so-called friendliness or things that are meant to bring health, comfort to people, you know, sometimes it's not welcome by all people. Not everybody wants that. Not everybody wants to be hugged. Not everybody wants to be touched. Not everyone wants even a handshake. You should be trying to understand. And even Joe Biden, to his credit, you know, when it was brought up to the attention about the type of person that he was, and, you know, when it comes to Biden, you know, he was, you know, yeah, I would say that he probably did hug people who might not have been comfortable with it, and while intent is irrelevant, I think that it's the desire. He's not there trying to be a sexual offender. He's not there trying to be someone who will grab him by the hoo-ha, as Trump said that he liked to do. You know, it's not done in a way that's a predatory way. It's done in a way that's meant to be compassionate. But unfortunately, some people don't appreciate that form of compassion. And to Biden's credit, he gave a speech about it, and he said, "Look, he did say this is how I was raised, but I apologize for it. I realized it was wrong. I realized that, you know, some people don't like that, and I'm sorry." As opposed to Cuomo, who was like, "I make no apologies for the type of person. This is how I am." He tried to claim that he was in some of the other clips. He tried to claim that he was. It was because he was Italian. As an Italian, that's the type of people that they do that. They kiss strangers, whatever. You know what? And even if he feels that his Italianness means that he's the type of person, you know, sometimes it becomes an excuse. And so when you're, and Cuomo did occasionally say that, look, he feels sorry if he was made anybody uncomfortable. But then, like, Biden wasn't like, Biden didn't go, "Look, I'm like this with other people." Although other people did show that Biden was also huggy with other people, not just women, like men too. You know, whatever. But Biden never tried to make that the excuse. Cuomo's trying to make it the excuse. Cuomo's being the tone deaf one here. He's not looking at what he's did, doing self-reflection and saying, "You know what, maybe I was wrong, and maybe I'm sorry, and I'll try and better myself." He's not saying he's going to better himself. He says, "This is how I am. Suck it." And maybe that's a very New York thing to do, because very New York attitude of, "Forget about it. I'm going to grab you. I'm going to give you a hug and a kiss or whatever. Forget about it." You know, maybe that's how New Yorkers, you know, act. Of course, you know, Trump is also a New Yorker, so you don't know. Bringing boy, I'm sorry, I grab and grope, it's a bad thing. I'm sorry. What? Where is the risk for the reward? I don't understand what you're saying. Oh, Mario Cuomo. Okay. He's been in office for 40 years. Countless women are, what? I don't, F-upped? I have no idea what that means either, Ringing Boy. I'm sorry, but I don't. But anyway, so I'm still going to call on, you know, I think Cuomo still needs to resign. I think that he needs to, COVID-19 is still a thing. And while he's not in those top 4 states like Louisiana is, he is still, you know, there's still a problem. There's still issues that have to be dealt with. Anyway, let's go ahead. Anyway, I think we should resign, and that's the end of it. So let's go ahead and take the final commercial block. Come back, the first commercial block for the people watching on YouTube. Then we'll wrap up the show then. So again, Thank you. This is Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left. That's right.
Greetings. This is Nimbus Yosh, host of the Percy Podcast. What is the Percy Podcast? Well, it's pretty much the smoothest talking host you'll ever hear in your life, talking about all kinds of things. Political things, nerdy things, fun things, not so fun things. Go ahead, give a listen, and follow at the Percy Podcast for more updates and information. Why not sit back and take a listen to one of the best podcasts you'll ever hear, and no one else will. Catch you on the tunes.
Do you want to set money aside for a rainy day? Do you want to open an account that will give you a savings bonus each month? What if I told you that you can get both and have a chance to win $10 million? YADA is an FDIC-insured bank, and when you go to yada.liberaldan.com, open an account, and make your first deposit, you will get 100 entries into the next weekly drawing. You will also get entries each week you have a balance. So go to yada.liberaldan.com. That's YOTTA.liberaldan.com.
This is Amber Petrovich, aka Just Capital, talking investing and finance in the Just Capital Minutes. FINRA fined the brokerage Robinhood a record $70 million for, among other things, lapses in customer service. This brings up an important issue. Which brokerage should you use and how do you choose one? There are several things to think about when you're choosing or switching to a brokerage. The first one is fractional share trading. Some brokerages that offer fractional or partial shares are Schwab, Robinhood, Fidelity, and Interactive Brokers. The second thing to consider is what the brokerage's interest rate is for trading on margin, i.e. borrowing from your broker. The higher your account balance, the lower interest rate you will typically pay to trade with margin. The average rate is about 5%. The third thing to consider is research. How much market information, including news, technical, and fundamental data, do you want? Do you want interactivity in your charts? Do you want a social experience? Then Webull may be the one for you. This has been the Just Capital Minute. Build wealth and fight the wealth gap.
And welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman from New Orleans, Louisiana, and we are just finishing off the show here. I did want to thank, again, this is the season premiere, so I do want to thank everybody who's been a Patreon so far. You got Demonox, the first Liberal Dan Radio patron. Thank you so much for all of you for your support. We have Cesar, my friend out in California. Thank you for your support for the podcast as well. And Chris, who also supports, who's a recent Liberal Dan Radio patron. He also supports the smooth sounds of the Percy Podcast. That is on Anchor.fm. You can listen to the Percy Podcast as well. Shouts out to my little brother, the host of the most, Nimbus Yosh. Go check his podcast out. Lots of good material over there as well. And one of these days we will get together and form Voltron again. If you want to be a Liberal Dan Radio Patreon or patron or whatever they call it, you can go to patreon.liberaldan.com or patreon.com/liberaldan, and you can support the show that way. You could either buy, do it as a small amount, $3 a month, $5 a month, or you could become a top level member and join the Discord when that gets up and running. And if you want to support the show even more, you can buy commercial advertising, buy bits, etc. All those possibilities are out there for you over on patreon.liberaldan.com. Support the show today. But even if you can't support the show monetarily, you could always do me a solid and follow me on all of my social media accounts. There's Blog Talk, radio.com/liberaldan. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's one of the things I'm really hoping for. Go to youtube.com/liberaldanradio. Subscribe to the show there. watch a bunch of my videos, help get my numbers up so I can make the channel into something even bigger and better than it was before. And also there's facebook.com/LiberalDan, Liberal Dan Radio on TikTok, Liberal Dan Radio on Twitter as well. That's all of the ways that you can support me and support Liberal Dan Radio in the 10th season of Liberal Dan Radio. And that'll be the end of this week's episode of Liberal Dan Radio Talk from the Left That's Right. Bleh. Easy for me to say. The end of the episode of Liberal Dan Radio Talk from the Left That's Right. Join me next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central, here on blogtalkradio.com/LiberalDan and on YouTube, youtube.com/LiberalDanRadio. Until next week, this is Dan Zimmerman with Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left. That's right.